Okay, let's take a look at a couple metrics by department. We're going to start with sales. And there are an infinite amount of metrics that you can measure, but I want to give you 6 metrics that matter per department so you at least have a foundation to start from. With sales, typically the first important metric is your bookings to plan. So, bookings, usually described as an annual contract value, so the value of signed contracts. Bookings doesn't mean revenue has come in the door yet. It doesn't necessarily mean that they've paid yet, but you have a booked contract and you have booked revenue that you're expecting to come in. Usually, this is the closed won event on an opportunity. So, when you're creating your bookings to plan metric, you really want to look at what has been booked and what was my goal. And you'll want to segment this a few ways. One, you'll want to know at the company level. What's the company level bookings goal? And how are we trending to that goal? Then you'll want to group it by territories or regions, and then be able to look at the individual goals as well. Just like everything else, if you want to segment this by industry, geography, or product, you may have other meaningful segments where you have bookings expectations, but this is really the goals and scoreboard of the business. The next metric that's really important is measuring sales cycle and conversion rates. And usually the most important way to do this is to go from sales qualified lead to closed won. You may have a lot of different steps along the way between sales qualified lead and closed won stages, but this will give the most information to the marketing team to develop their sales qualified lead goals. So having a really good understanding of how long it takes to move something from sales qualified lead to close and what percentage close from sales qualified lead to close won is going to be really important for planning purposes and making sure that you're on track. Next is going to be your weighted pipeline, forecast, and coverage. This is going to give you a leading indicator as to whether you're on track to hit your bookings target or not. Weighted pipeline is going to be all of the opportunities that you have in your system that are open with your reps, and then weighting them based on a few metrics that you're going to develop for your business. The most common ones are weighting by stage, weighting by qualification metrics, and weighting by deal health, which is a judgment call based on the sales rep. You may have a total of $1 million of open pipeline, but after you attribute some discounting based on your weighting methodology, maybe your weighted pipeline is a quarter of that. To come up with your weights, you'll really want to look at historical data, most particularly your funnel metrics from SQL to close. After understanding your weighted pipeline coverage, the other metric that's really important for sales is looking at your created pipeline. This is going to give you an idea of how much velocity you have and the ability to bring in new sales qualified leads, and are you bringing them in at the rate that's going to prepare your pipeline coverage for the future? You'll want to look at this metric a few ways. Usually by rep is going to be really important to make sure each rep is getting pipeline created in their territory and getting enough to meet their quotas. You'll also want to look at this from a lead source perspective. Is marketing producing the amount of SQLs that you're expecting? Is your sales team producing the amount of SQLs you assign to them? And are the other sources performing to plan? Another important metric is going to be your win-loss analysis, taking a look at any opportunities that you didn't win and assessing those reasons. Does it have to do with pricing, product, timing, or was there a poor qualification for the lead in the first place? For the deals you are winning, there's usually a lot of factors, but what was the driving one? Did you win with your product features? Did you win because you were able to provide discounts? Or was it the relationship that brought the deal in? Next is going to be your pipeline change over time. You'll want to look at this in time increments. As an example, you want to look from 1 month to the next month, 1 quarter to the next quarter. You'll have to have a starting baseline for this and then look at everything that changed over time. So you'll want to look at the beginning of the month, did you have $1 million of pipeline, and how much pushed out to another month, got pulled in, closed won, or closed lost.